everyone, welcome back. This is Denise. Today I thought I would break in the Dina Wakley Ledger Journal for mixed media, and I'm going to paint in it. And I have discovered if you put tape on it, it does tear the paper, like it'll pull off this and leave like a white spot. But I've put tape over here, and then I'll try to use a heat gun and not mess it up too bad. But I thought what I would do is an abstract here and a color palette here, which I kind of came up with that idea when I was showing this journal off and kind of floated that idea out there. And I was kind of thinking that what I would do is maybe pick a couple of colors and white and black to do the color palette, just as a play in mixing colors and then making the piece of art next to the color palette. I thought that would be a fun use of this because I like using old books as color palettes. Just to show you another book that I've used in the past with color palettes. This is an old hymnal that I found in the antique market somewhere, and I used to put color palettes and a piece of the art that I was doing. And to do a real old book, what you do is just gesso that page, maybe staple a couple pages together so it's a little stronger, and then you can fill up your book with different color palettes and stuff. And so I always liked the idea of kind of painting in old books and doing different color palette things on the pages. But what I really like about this is it's not an old book that we're using. We're using something that we could get more than one of, so it's really cool. And I thought what would be fun is I've seen plenty of videos on YouTube in the past on the Zorn Palette, and the Zorn Palette is it's known as the Apelles palette, and it's comprised of 4 colors thought to have been used by the Swedish portrait painter Andres Zorn. And the colors are Vermilion, Ivory Black, White, and Yellow Ochre. So I'm going to do a modified version of that because I'm going to use the Blick paints. So I'm going to use Red Deep, Yellow Oxide, and then Black and White, just because again, I like with the color palettes, I like it to take me in a direction but not necessarily have to use it exactly as it is. Same thing I do with the color palettes. I'm gonna do it with this palette too. And so I've got a red, the yellow, the black, and the white, and that's basically the Zorn palette. And kind of what you're doing in here is starting off with a color, and this is mixed media paper. It's not as heavy as a watercolor paper, and I have a feeling that it might possibly warp as we're doing stuff with it. But I think what I'm going to do is just first get the main colors out here, just to have them in the palette. I'm not going to do this in any specific way. I'm not going to do red going towards yellow or whatever. I'm going to just have these in here as a fun way of showing like where I can go with the colors, just playing and mixing. It's just a fun exercise for me. And so you could get very specific in your color mixing and do it more methodical and start off with, a whole lot of one color and a little bit of another color, and just see, and you could write down those color mixes and see like how did you get there and how much paint did you put in versus something else that you did. But I just kind of want to just go for it and just see like what the different mixes could be, and then just as a play exercise. I'm not looking for precision here. You could though. This is an excellent one where you could definitely be specific, make a color mixing chart, have specifics that you could later remember. But that's not where I'm going with this. I'm just gonna go and play and just think like, ooh, how could I mix this? What could I get out of this? If I remember it later, that's a bonus, but I probably won't, and I'm just not gonna worry about it. It's all in the discovery and the play for me. Okay, I really like these shades of orange and pink that we kind of got here. You know what I could have done? Let's do this before I really get all these done, because then I could come back at the top and notate what colors I'm using here. So there's the red. And then I'll at least remember what colors I started with, even if I don't remember ratios. There's the yellow. Got us some black. And then this can be my own little template going forward, like how I might do the following pages after this as I pick other colors. And just to see, you know, some may be good, some may not be good. It's all in the game of testing things out and experimenting and just going like, oh, you know, not something I expected. Alright, so that's kind of cool looking. We didn't get the full range of like everything we could get, I'm sure. But what this does for me is just give me some fun ideas in how I might now go over here and take all these colors that I've already mixed on my palette and create an abstract. And I've got a bunch of colors mixed in here to my paintbrush. And I think that's pretty cool as a starting point. And you can see this makes a really beautiful range of skin tones and grays. This, as I'm mixing it up, is a really pretty shade of almost like a purple in here. So this was actually a super fun, a very easy practice to maybe not get so exact as what you might tend to get with a color palette, but to just like do a line saying, look at all these color ranges, and then expand from there. But these are delightful. This is actually a super fun color palette, and I've just left all the paint in my brush for now, because why not? It's just play. It's experimenting. It's learning. I'm sure that this paper is probably going to crinkle up on us, but that's okay, because what we could do with the book after, you know, we've painted it and it's dry is we can come back in and shut the book up, and hopefully some of these pages will flatten back out. This is a really good experiment for how is this paper going to hold up to acrylic paint. I decided acrylic paint on this because it's a lightweight mixed media kind of paper. It's not a heavyweight watercolor paper, and I thought, well, if I put a lot of water on here, I'm afraid the paper is going to really warp and not come back. So I thought acrylic paint might work better. I think on the Dina Wakley stuff, she had said, you know, she was having good luck with her own paints on it. And so I was kind of thinking that this might be like a good book for acrylic paint, not the watercolor. Now I'm just going to come in and maybe do some mark making. And I could also kind of come back with stenciling on top if I wanted. And if I stay in this color palette, I'm feeling pretty good about, you know, what that could look like for us. I'm just going to continue doing a little mark making here. But you can see how this would be a pretty color palette for portraits. Now I can see exactly why that painter was a portrait artist doing these. I kind of want to now come back in and maybe do, oh yeah, that's what I wanted. Whoa! I had to sit and think for a second there, like, what did I want? But I wanted to have some a few vivid elements. This is not a color palette I've ever used, I don't think. I could be wrong because I tend to forget some of the stuff that we've done because I've made so many videos. They tend to just kind of run together for me. But I don't remember us using this color palette before, but it's actually rather delightful when you stick within just a set of some colors. I mean, these are fun. I especially like the pink and orange that we get mixing the red and the yellow and the white there. Alright, I think I'm going to let this dry for a second. And I might come back with a stencil. We'll see. So let's let this dry for a moment and I'll be right back. Okay, now I'm kind of thinking, we got this dry, but I'm kind of thinking I just need like a little pop of the white maybe. And so I've pulled out a temper paint stick. I don't know what it's going to do on this paper. I'm sure it'll be fine on the paper, but will it give me the white vividness that maybe I'm hoping for? Why, yes it does. Yes, it does. And I chose this over maybe a stencil for this piece because the more I looked at it, the more I liked it just like it was. But I did feel like since we're using a more traditional kind of color palette, working with like an old masters kind of palette, that maybe that little pop of white and black definitely would apply here with these. And the temper sticks, they dry pretty fast, so we'll definitely be able to touch these. They won't smear, and they'll do some just fun extra elements on here as some mark making for me. Okay, that's fun. Just kind of having a little play here. Now I'm almost thinking, let's get our heat gun and look at this real quick. I just want to make sure I don't tear this paper, so I'm just going to heat the tape up a little bit just to make sure. I mean, if you did tear this paper with some tape, you could just kind of blend it in like it might be part of the antique ledger look, so it wouldn't really matter, but I kind of didn't want to tear it. Okay, that's pretty awesome there with the color palette beside it. And I think now that we've done that, I'm actually super happy with the way that this has turned out. And I think it's thick enough that if I flip it over to the back side for, say, the next color palette, I could easily do the color palette here and the paint here. So it's not like two heavy pages of paint right there together. I did start a couple pages back just in case I hated it, but I don't hate it. I kind of love it. And this, I think, will be a fun experiment for this book going forward if it were a whole book of, say, color palettes and paintings. And I kind of liked on this one that there was more writing on this side and this side was plain because I managed to cover the whole page up. Some of them, both pages, are more decorative. And so I might consider, you know, on the next abstract, leaving some space in there so you could see that. But this one was all, didn't have a bunch of writing on it, and I liked that about it. So that was super fun. What did you think about experimenting with two colors, white and black? This was as close to a Zorn palette as I was going to get for something like this. I just wanted it similar. Didn't have to be exact, but it gives us an idea of the color range of things that we could consider. We could even do tighter little squares. We could do a full-on color palette on some of these as we go further back, but as a first test, I think that was a success. Hope you enjoyed painting with me today and experimenting with the Zorn palette and trying out the new ledger and how I think that this would be an exceptionally cool way to use the ledger in color mixing experiments. And I'll see you guys next time.